Welcome to the Branding Room Only podcast, where we share career stories, strategies, and lessons learned on how industry leaders and influencers have built their personal brands. Now, let's get started with the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Branding Room Only. It's your host, Paula Edgar, and today's episode is a bit different. No matter what you're navigating, whether it's the grief of losing a loved one, the disappointment of a missed opportunity, not passing the bar, the end of a relationship, or even the outcomes of an election that feel disheartening, we all at some point have to face grief and disappointment. It's something that inevitably shapes us both personally and professionally. And so I wanted to talk about this. The first step, and it's an important one, is to feel the feelings. Whatever you're experiencing, it's okay to take a pause. And sometimes that means stepping away, taking time off, or disconnecting to give yourself the space to regroup. This pause is not about avoidance, but it's about allowing yourself the grace to process before you decide how to move forward. Remembering that grief and disappointment don't just live inside us, they can change how we show up in the world and, as a result, impact our personal brand. Whether we realize it or not, our emotions influence our energy, our outlook, and ultimately how people perceive us. So first, let's talk about the emotional toll and public perception. When you're dealing with loss or disappointment, it often shows. You might feel and seem more drained, less present, or simply not as energized to engage. This shift is natural, but it's important to recognize that our presence may be altered. Then there is the balance between professionalism and vulnerability. We've talked a lot about authenticity on this podcast, and it can be tough to decide how much to reveal. Thinking about how do you remain professional while also honoring the fact that you're going through something challenging. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's about what feels true to you. Finally, it's very common to experience a shift in priorities during times where you experience grief or disappointment. Grief and disappointment make us question what truly matters. And you may find yourself reevaluating your goals, your values, the people you surround yourself with, and even the brand you've already built. And that's okay, because one thing you know about branding is that your brand is allowed to grow with you. So once you have taken the pause and you're ready to move forward, let's talk about some of the things and strategies you can use to help you through this period. Number one is setting boundaries. It is essential. It is perfectly okay to be selective about what you share, who you talk to, with whom, and whether that might mean limiting your social media time, adjusting your availability, or only taking on projects and things that might feel manageable at this time. Setting boundaries can help to protect your energy. Another step is communicating with transparency when appropriate. This again aligns with authenticity. Sometimes being upfront about where you are can be very powerful. Maybe that means letting your team know you're taking a step back or informing clients of adjusted timelines. Transparency can build trust and show your human side, but only share as much as you're comfortable with. It's all right to just say, I'm dealing with something right now. Lastly, I believe that self-care is brand care. Self-care isn't just a buzzword. It is a vital part of how you keep your brand strong. I have a dedicated self-care practice, and it is non-negotiable. So for you all, taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally really allows you to show up authentically. And this might mean also including therapy, exercise, journaling, or anything that can help you to stay grounded. And you want to remember your self-care practice when you're experiencing grief and disappointment. The other thing I want you to remember is your squad, your people. It's important to have that personal board of directors, which we've talked about before, a support network of people you can lean on for both personal and strategic guidance. Remember that your board of directors doesn't have to necessarily come naturally or only be people who happen to be close to you, right? It can include people you've intentionally brought into your life to support you in specific ways. For example, I mentioned, and I always mention, that a big part of my personal board of directors includes my therapist and my coach. So in times of grief or disappointment, I use them to remind me that I can allow myself to feel what I'm feeling and take the time that I need to process. This step has been invaluable in helping me to show up authentically, both for myself and eventually for others. I also want to share something with you that when I'm personally experiencing grief, I make it a priority to avoid places or events where I might not be able to show up as my best self or my feelings might shift the tone of the space. There's an old saying, if you're having a bad day, try not to make it everyone else's. And I believe in that deeply. I think that it can kind of be catching. This is different than trying to find your people and to find community when you're experiencing grief or disappointment together. That's different. I don't want you to think this means isolating yourself. It just means choosing environments where you feel comfortable and supported. You might be surprised by what I'm about to say, but I believe it or not, I think that grief and disappointment can also offer you a chance for growth. And here's how you can start to think about these experiences to evolve your brand. Before I jump into this, I want to remind you of a quote that my therapist shares with me very often, which is that growth begins where comfort ends. And when we are experiencing discomfort, it means that we are growing. So let's think about these next points as opportunities for our brands to grow. First, think about your vulnerability as a strength. There's power, so much power in authenticity. And if it feels right, sharing some of your journey and your experiences can create connections with others who have had similar experiences. Vulnerability shows courage, and when done thoughtfully, it can deepen your brand's impact and have folks connect with you more. The other piece is resetting goals and expectations. This is a powerful step. We all have our vision and what our hopes are, but you don't have to chase the same vision of success that you had before your experience of grief. Take a moment to reflect and realign. Ask yourself what still resonates for you and what doesn't. Because remember, your vision, your goals, your intentions, and your brand should grow with you. Finally, similar to your self care practice, you want to build a resilience plan, right? That resilience plan can help you in a practical way to stay grounded because no matter what, challenges will always arise. But the more that you can build resilience, it can help you to bounce back faster and stronger. Simple practices like setting manageable goals, nurturing supportive relationships, and recognizing small wins, no matter how small, can help you moving forward, even during the tough times of grief and disappointment. I want to share a little bit from my own journey. Many of you know that I've been through my share of setbacks and loss and grief. And I have found that taking a pause and allowing myself to feel in each of those things was essential. And yet, every single time that I stepped back, I discovered new strengths and new dimensions of myself and my brand that I hadn't seen before. And I know that I am not alone in this, and neither are you. So I want to remind you, using this quote by Maya Angelou, which is this: you may not control all of the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. I think it's such a powerful message to remember that being down is not being out, and being bruised does not mean being broken. Grief comes in waves, and one day that might feel manageable, and the next it might feel overwhelming, and that is normal. But as you process, come back to some of these best practices. Remember to lean on your board, take care of yourself, and allow yourself to move at your own pace. So, to wrap up, I want to leave you with some steps to take if you're going through grief and disappointment, which many of us are now. Acknowledge and accept. Don't push your emotions aside. Accept them, let them move through you, and remember that healing and grieving are all processes. Set up small and manageable goals, right? That can help you to re-engage, whether it's sending a couple emails, attending a short meeting, or tackling a project. Small wins can help you to navigate better through grief and disappointment and help you to build confidence. And I cannot say this enough. Seek support. Don't hesitate to reach out to your network, your board of directors, your trusted friends. Seeking support from others is often what we need to help us to know that we're not in it alone and to keep moving forward. So I hope that today's episode has been a reminder that it's okay to be human. Grief and disappointments are parts of life, and navigating them can shape our brands in powerful ways. You are resilient. You're allowed to take the time you need, and when you're ready, you will find your way forward. Everybody, thank you again for joining me on Branding Room Only. Remember to take care of yourself. I look forward to connecting with you soon, and stand by your brand.